Amanda here, and I have the pleasure of being in Delaware, Ohio today. The lovely Sarah, one of my hatchery's remote team members, has invited us down to her farm today to have a look at her poultry setup. So we're going to start off by looking at our turkeys. I just got an order of turkeys that I just split with you, Sarah, right?
Yes.
Because our heritage turkey minimum is 20. Most times, most of us can't handle 20 poults at one time. So we decided to go in and split an order. So I am not only here to do a live, but also to pick up my half order of heritage turkey poults. So let's zoom on in and look at them. And Sarah, can you point out a few things in this brooder that may be special just when brooding turkey poults that you wouldn't do normally for chicks?
So the one thing that I do have is, I'll show you, it's a water that doesn't have a very deep tray, and it doesn't put that much water out, because turkeys, they can drown in their water dish, and we do not want that to happen. They are not too smart when it comes to the water.
Turkeys are a lot like infants. You kind of have to baby them a little bit once they first hatch, right?
That is very true. And the other thing is, just like chickens, keeping the brooder at the correct temperature between 90 and 95 degrees. I have the heat lamp up a little bit because they are in the garage and it does get quite warm in here. Normally, if you were inside the house or in a basement, you would probably want it a little bit lower, but I do have it higher just because of how hot it is out here in the garage.
And I do see you have your handy dandy thermometer.
Oh yes, and as you can see, some special poo on there because I do put it underneath, especially at nighttime when the temperature does start to drop. I want to make sure we are still staying at that correct temperature.
So we always recommend a thermometer. It doesn't have to be anything special or super expensive, but just something to help you keep track of that temperature. Just because without their feathers, they cannot control their body temperatures. We can't throw a coat on them. So what we do is we use a heat lamp to regulate this brooder. And I see that it's draft free, which we also recommend with chicks and poults. And I see they're happy and running around. They're not huddled under the lights. You can tell that they're not super cold and they're not panting. They're not super hot.
And then the other thing is I do have them on a 27% organic game bird starter. You can do unmedicated or medicated. I chose to do unmedicated and organic. And that is something that I did get from Meyer Hatchery.
And I personally, we all have different ways of raising poultry, and like I've said in lives before, my way is not always the best way. I personally raise mine on a high protein medicated feed. I have found that I've had less issues with coccidosis that way. Because turkeys seem to be more infantile after hatch, you have to baby them a little bit more, they tend to possibly eat their poop, and that's how they contract coccidosis. So the medication in the medicated feed will help prevent that. But I do see that you have the cord on hand just in case.
Just in case we do have an issue, I do have the cord where I can treat them with a 21-day program or the 5-day in case I do see symptoms of it.
And she is feeding unmedicated, so she can use that. If you are feeding medicated, we do not recommend using both. It's too much at once, so it's either medicated feed or cord if needed.